Nice. Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to 1 in 6 Supports Friday group. We have speakers today we're very happy about from Intensive Therapeutics. Thank you, Caroline Gentili, who is on the board of Intensive Therapeutics, who brought this wonderful organization here today. So we are going to get started, and everybody can introduce themselves. Sure. Who's going to be presenting. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexandra Clayton. I am the Director of Therapy Services at Intensive Therapeutics.
My name is Brielle Hassa. I'm the Director of Occupational Therapy at Intensive Therapeutics.
And then we have one more.
Hello, my name is Allie Edwards. I'm the Director of Speech Therapy at Intensive Therapeutics.
So we want to start by telling you a little bit about Intensive Therapeutics. We are located in West Caldwell, New Jersey, right down Bloomfield Avenue, and we're a nonprofit organization bringing therapy services to children, teens, and young adults. And we have OT, PT, and speech. And I'm going to let Brielle explain a little bit of the history and the background.
So, exciting news. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary at Intensive Therapeutics, which is amazing. And I always like to just start out and talk a little bit about our executive director, Scott Matthews, who some of you know. 20 years ago, Scott was working at Children's Specialized Hospital, and he saw that Children's Specialized is great, but there are other needs that needed to be met. So he really saw that the medical model wasn't working because we as clinicians have a lot of experience and know a lot of the research, right? And you as parents, and especially moms, right? We follow our intuition and gut, and we know what's best for our kids. So he decided to take things on the road. So he was no longer being kind of governed by the medical model, billing, insurance, scheduling. And he started listening to parents. So we started creating programs in groups, small groups, individual services too. And we really just started moving out into the community. So that was a really great thing for Scott to be doing, and a nonprofit as well, which is really important.
Yeah.
So,
and the main reason for the nonprofit is because Scott really believed that anyone who needs the services should be able to access quality services rather than insurance only covering quantity-based services in school or in hospitals. So we're very much so a community-based. We provide sliding scale fees for anyone who needs that. We have gotten foundations to pay for services. We have tried to get grants to provide services. We provide a scholarship for certain, and we really try to work with every family who needs the services as much as we can. So we have lots of different programs. Like Brielle said, we have been around for 20 years now. So some of the kids that started with Scott when they were 2 are now 22. So that's why I say we are in the young adult field now as well. Scott Matthews. Okay. And we truly listen to parents and see what is needed rather than dictating and governing like what we think your child should be doing or your teenager should be doing, and what's important to the family, right? We think about it's more of like a holistic approach, I'd say. We look at the whole child rather than, OTs do arms, PTs do legs, and speech therapists only work on language. No, it's all, you have a whole child in front of you. So that's really what we try to focus on. And it's really fun to grow with families. I know some people can talk about their experiences with us, but we grow with the family. So I've taught a child how to ride a tricycle and then a bicycle, and now we have a driving program because those children now want to be able to drive, right, and do what their peers are doing. So we listen to the families, and we can kind of go into our programs and explain a little bit more. But before we do that, if you're okay with it, can we go around just who has a child, a young adult, teen? We just want to know what ages kind of where we're talking to right now, if you're okay sharing. Sure.
I have 3 kids. One kid, my oldest, has special needs. So he's autistic, has ADHD and anxiety, and probably what looks like OCD. He has kind of behavioral stuff going on, and I feel like it's evolved over the years. In the beginning, he was much more hyperactive, and he still is, but now the behaviors have manifested. Even though he communicates, he has verbal language, which some kids don't, but it hasn't really helped in some other regards of like his processing cause and effect and consequences and things like that. That's my.
And how old?
Oh, sorry, 7.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. How old?
My son is 3.5. He's going to be 4 in Jan, so older than 3.5. And he was diagnosed with autism in July. But when we went back to see the doctor a couple of weeks ago, she was like, "Oh, he has great eye contact. He's very flexible. It might just be ADHD." So I'm not even sure what's going on.
That's a common story that we've heard before. So yeah.
And so we're
Understand
doing speech and OT at Children's Specialized, actually. I'm waiting to see how much effect that has, and then kind of reevaluate at the end of the year, see where we go.
Great.
I have an 18-year-old girl, and she has been working with intensive therapeutics since she was 25 months old. We'll come back to her.
Yes,
at some point in the discussion.
And I have an 18-year-old son who is a college freshman, and he met Alex and Scott more than 10 years ago. And he's one of those kids she mentioned who, Alex grew with him. He grew with Alex over the years, and just had needs met when he needed them for a solid decade, which was awesome.
I have a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old. My 9-year-old has a diagnosis of autism. He was diagnosed, I think, at 17 months old, something like that. No, 22 months old. He has a lot of things going on. He has a speech deficit. He uses a communication device. He does receive OT, and I actually had him at Children's Specialized for some time, getting PT, OT, and feeding therapy. But at this point, he's just getting speech therapy and occupational therapy. And I believe he also has apraxia, and also sensory processing disorder. So, so I'm actually looking for something where it can be integrative. I've always thought that would be the best for my son.
Hi, I'm Natanya. I have 3 kids, 12-year-old, 7-year-old, 6-year-old. They're all my tickets into this group. They're all autistic. My 12-year-old lives in a school in Pennsylvania, but my 7 and 6-year-old are at home with me, and they, like, my 7-year-old's not speaking, still untoileted, very, like, I don't know, he's considered high support needs, and he's like a master of executive function once it sinks in. Like, he's sort of like the family director.
That's great. That's great.
My 6-year-old is I think he's actually ADHD, even though he's diagnosed with autism. And speech delayed, pretty anxious, kind of rigid about things, extremely creative, likes to wear dresses, dressed up as a 16th century Tatar king for Halloween. Like, I think they would both really potentially benefit from your services. It's very exciting.
No, great. Yeah, and so I know a lot of you mentioned children.
We have to run because I'm actually taking my son to speech right
Oh.
now. Nice meeting you all.
Nice to meet you.
Neha, you can also connect with this thing if you just want to follow a news.
And I have a 21-year-old who is who has Prader-Willi syndrome and autism and ADHD, and yeah. 21.
So we can kind of tell you about all of our programs, right? So we heard a lot about Children's Specialized Hospital. That is not wrong. That's not what we're here to say at all. We feel like, there's a time and a place for everything. So the way we deliver services are slightly different, and it's not that we're right, that's wrong. We're all in this community together, right? So we do the typical individual services that kind of everyone has touched upon, but we also do these small group programs. And that's where we really feel like that's where we're bridging the gap between that individual service and then getting to that next step where maybe your child's in a school group, or, right, we always say, a family unit is a group, right? Being able to participate in the family as a group, or at their school, or in sports, or whatever their hobbies are, right? So
Life happens in groups.
So bridging that gap between what they're learning in individual services and bringing it to the small group where there's supportive people, therapists. A lot of our groups are speech and OT co-led. So we try to collaborate and work together to see exactly what is needed for each child.
It's a really safe space too for them to kind of practice the skills that they have been learning in an individual basis. So having a small group of 3 or 4 kids and you're getting to practice some of those speech and play skills when there is structure, right? We're kind of mimicking school, or we can mimic free play. We have a really beautiful space where we have a playground, we have different therapy rooms, a sensory gym, rock climbing wall, all these different spaces for them to kind of practice these skills and try them out in a space where there is structure, and also OT, PT, and speech being able to help facilitate it as well. And like Alex said, we kind of grow. So our groups start as young as 3 years old, even sometimes a little bit younger than that, 2 years old. And then we have groups for 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, teenagers. We have executive functioning groups. We have bike riding groups. And we also do like an intensive style therapy camp. And that's kind of the model that we were talking about, where that one's harder for a medical model place to be able to kind of pull off, whereas we kind of have the ability to do something like that. But really, it's more so kind of figuring out what your child needs and listening to the parent. And I think too, just like a little thing, as OTs, I always like to go back to the fact that OT was born out of having purpose and meaning in life. And for us, anything that your child wants and needs to do to lead a happy, healthy life, no matter what that is our job to figure out how can we help them to do that. And so that's kind of what all the programs, right, are born out of. What we're listening to you guys, and then we're also using our experts as therapists to be able to facilitate. So that's kind of how our small group was born, right?
So I could go into, does anyone have any questions so far? Sure.
Yeah.
What sort of behaviors of kids would not be a candidate for your group, just so we know like what would be considered like the right suitable?
Yeah, absolutely. So our process, what we do is we actually have you come in and trial the group first, and then we're able to see if that's the right makeup of the group for that child, right? So,
So there's different groups.
so there's different groups that can be the right fit versus the wrong fit, and we want to make sure that we're putting the group together that makes the most sense, not just filling spots, right? So it really, if it's a very aggressive behavior, we would say maybe the groups, you're not ready for the group, but that doesn't mean that we can't work towards it, right? So we have a child right now who is not ready for a group. So we do an individual, 30-minute individual, and then 30 minutes of pushing in with an individual therapist to help give that person, that child, the one-to-one support that they need. So depending on, right, like we would talk to you, we would determine which group would be the best fit. We would trial it, and then we always come with a plan rather than just saying, no, that's not the right fit. So we would work with the family. So, but I would say it has to, the child has to be able to be part of a group without being extremely aggressive towards other kids.
I have a question.
Sure.
Hi, this is Andrea. So my daughter is 17. She's at a out of district school. She's been diagnosed with autism, sensory processing disorder. And I was saying earlier how she's now doing facilitated communication. She's been doing it for several years, and just seeing the gains with that. Do you have something similar, or how would you model something for her if we've seen success with the facilitated communication? Not to say that that's what I'm specifically looking for, but just give a little bit of information.
Do you want to, I'm going to turn that to Allie since she's our speech.
I was going to say that we've had kids of many different like communication abilities within our groups. So we would figure out kind of what your child needs as far as the facilitated communication within the group. We want the child to be able to communicate as in their best ability, whatever they come with. And then we kind of like work on, enhancing that or improving it, but there's no style of communication that we don't do within the group. So whether it's AAC use or FC, like you're saying, or verbal communication, nonverbal communication, we kind of meet the child where they're at and then figure out how we can integrate that within a group setting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, she does have some verbal, and of course, the goal is to get her to speak more, but working with that, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Are groups based on age or based on cognitive ability?
So kind of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mix.
Can you repeat the question just because if people online can't hear what she said?
Sure. Are the group makeup based on age or cognitive ability? That was the question. So it really depends, right? We never just say, oh, this person's 7 years old, so that's the right group for them. Again, we bring you in, we tour you around, we meet with you and find the best fit. So it really depends on each individual child. And I know that's strange to hear, because most of the time you just hear a group and it's like, oh, you just sign up for the group and then you're done. We really take the time to make sure it's the right fit and find the right group.
And
for each
we
child.
also really believe, right, every child has a certain set of strengths, and there's kids can learn from each other too. So sometimes when we're pairing groups, right, maybe we'll pair a child that has CP with a child that has autism, because the child with autism is, right, we're learning some of that communicative behavior from a child that has CP and the social part, whereas a child with CP is kind of learning to use two hands and the motor aspect that sometimes children with autism, you know, they've got that down. So really thinking about it that way too, like everyone can kind of be a role model or a peer leader in some sort if we just place them the right way.
Yeah. And it's never just about the diagnosis, right? So it's not just, oh, because you have this diagnosis, this makes sense for you. It's each individual. And like Brielle said, everyone has their strengths.
What
Right.
are the goals of like let's say you have a group that runs for I don't know how many sessions,
Mhm.
like what are the goals you're trying to reach? Or is it more like facilitated free play and just helping infuse other skills into it?
So I'll kind of talk about each group and answer that question within. So Say and Play is our youngest group, that's really ages from like 2 to 6 years old, and they're not paired together. It's different times of the day. That's speech and OT led, and that's more of, it's structured. So it's structured like we might have a circle time, we'll go over a schedule, we might have an arts and crafts, we might have a gross motor time. But within that, we are helping facilitate kind of that social communication within the peers. So if we're working on attention, right, everyone kind of comes with their own individual goals. But it's our job as a therapist to make it work for that child's individual goals.
So like more general long-term goals, like for each group, like speech and OT based, but then there's those individual goals within each child for the group.
Yeah. So if we're working on attention, we're working on social communication, we're working on feeding within the group setting, right? For our younger clients, that's kind of, it's all fair game in that sense. And then we have that style of group for each age group. So Spot On is our next group, which is like 7 to 11-ish, 12, depending on the child. Then we go into Teen Series, which is more executive functioning and working on, and it's OT and speech led, working on those executive functioning skills within a group setting. And then we even have an IT Works program for our older teens and young adults who are working on more of those vocational skills and knowing the soft skills and the hard skills to a job. So soft skills might be, what do you do on break? You can't run around and hug everyone at work, right? Even though we're a very fun bunch, you can't go around. You know,
break some of those soft girls.
What can you do on a break? You know, you can't. You might not be able to run, you know, listen to loud music and run back and forth. If that's how your child needs to get their energy out, they might have to go to the break room, and kind of teaching all those skills in a pre-vocational setting. But then the hard skills, maybe they want to work at a coffee shop, maybe a soap business, maybe they want to design websites. Right now we have pre-vocational clients designing greeting cards and learning Canva, so, and printing them and trying to sell them. So there's a lot of different ways that we can really hit different goals in the group setting.
I think too, just to speak a little bit more about IT Works, we also have an organic soap company. So a parent whose child with autism was actually running the soap company, and he kind of graduated from that, and she passed it off to us. And so now we're able to have the kids come and practice the soft and hard skills of running the soap company, so taking orders, selling the soaps, packaging them. And then we also have two kitchens at our facility. One's a large kitchen because we're actually in an old church that was renovated for us. So they actually get to run coffee services throughout the year. They run coffee services through the parents, but it's just a really nice way for them to practice those skills, again, in a really supported environment. They're doing
so the after school IT Works program is more geared for high school students. Ish, a little younger too, can go into that one. But the other one that is run Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's during the day, that's more for the clients that have gone out of school already, 21, 22-year-old and kind of up. So
IT Works is doing a pop-up shop next Thursday, the 20th, from 4:30 to 5. So if you want to peek at what this
Yeah.
is in real time.
Yes.
So I take it you go there, your daughter goes there.
Yes, one child will be working at.
Yeah. And then we also do, if you're interested in the young adult program, they're actually having a fall fest. I think it's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I forget the time,
10:30
10:30 to
Yeah, it's
12, I believe, and they will be doing coffee service. They'll be selling greeting cards. But if you wanted to come and take a tour and visit and see it in action, you are more than welcome to come by as well.
Sorry, I think about the kitchen. One of the ways that I'm getting my son to try to talk is through baking.
Oh, we love
And
that.
he does that at home with his speech therapist.
Love that.
And I was just wondering, like, he's 9, if there's a way to integrate that.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
you're not doing that now, but maybe that's something you could think about for the future with the
Alex
younger
taught my son
children.
how to bake.
And cook and yeah, no, we work on everything and anything. I'm teaching someone how to make chicken now. A few weeks ago we were building a full salad. Next week I think we're doing broccoli and sauteed broccoli and cauliflower. So again,
Sometimes
it's
they'll bake within the small group too. And
Yeah.
something like cooking and baking is such a great skill. It's like one of those hard and soft skills too, but someone's reading directions to the other kids and they're navigating the kitchen and finding the tools, but like we're talking about it first and steps to it. So there's
Yeah.
Oh, that's
baking
awesome.
and cooking is such a great group activity.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we use JC for that. It's
Yeah.
very
Perfect.
motivating,
Yeah.
reinforcing, we get cookies afterwards. So
Yeah.
the
I would
build.
love to see that.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
building is really set up for us to work on anything
Yeah.
that any child, teen, or young adult comes, which is really nice because you don't get that everywhere. So we even have a house on site where for our summer programs, people who come from far away, because I'll explain that program next, but people stay there, but then we also have showers that we can use. We have a full kitchen in that house as well. We have
Washer dryer.
washer dryer. We have bedrooms where we've taught kids how to make beds and take care of a dorm room or an apartment, right? To get ready for those skills to go off to college.
I also taught my son how to do
Yeah, so it's an amazing space. We always invite, again, this is not us selling spots in a group. It's truly, I feel like we can be supportive as well for anyone who needs to talk, even transitioning, where Scott's great at talking to parents about the IEP process and how you can really talk to your school district about making it individualized, the transitions between EI to school, school to transition period and young adults, right? So we want to be a support system for you as well. It's not just about filling groups for us.
Actually, I have a question about observing. Are we allowed to observe, or is there any kind of observation system that you have for when you're working with the child, or is it more,
So it depends. So individual sessions, we can allow that a little more.
Okay.
In the group setting, it gets a little tricky just because other parents, other kids. But if there was something that we really wanted to show off to parents, we can bring all the parents in.
Got it.
We have invited parents in to see
Take videos.
something in action. We can take
We do take
videos.
videos.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would also just add as a parent, they also, my son did mostly individual, some
Mhm.
group, but individual every single time they meet with your child, you get like a detailed in-person
That was
understanding.
that was
right
my
here.
next
You're gonna
question.
find out exactly what happened.
That's it. If
Yeah.
at least you get that, then
Totally.
that.
We love
it's not
talking.
Carrying over what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
That's
truly
where I was
a
going.
family, I would say, like a family approach, right? It's not just about us doing, right? If it's an individual session, it's not just us about doing the therapy in that 1 hour. It's okay, how do we then communicate that to you to be able to carry it over? How do we communicate that to your the rest of your team members, right? Because you're going to have other therapists, other teachers. We are more than happy to have phone calls and meet with people. Sorry. We love to collaborate. Like that's one key thing is we love to collaborate. Yeah. Collaboration is, I think, on our top priority. And that's why we were so excited when we brought in our own PT, because now we can truly collaborate between all 3 disciplines. And one mom said it, I think it was last week. She was like, this is the first time that I didn't have to like reintroduce the story to each discipline because you guys actually talked about my child, and then I didn't have to repeat everything over and over again. And that was a new family to us. So that was nice to hear. We think we're doing that, but it's nice to hear that we actually do it.
It's a big piece of therapy too, I think, because your child is with us for only a certain amount of time, then they're out in school or with their family the rest of the time too. So sometimes we're not a blip on the radar, right? You see us a lot, but being able to collaborate and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Sometimes we joke that like we're ganging up on the kids because everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. Like one of the PTs, if they had seen the kid in school, we were saying recently, were her shoes double knotted? Because we were working on double knots, and I was like, yeah, they were double knotted. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Like, how's it looking? So we have eyes everywhere, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. It's nice that we have the time to be able to do that, right? So that's why we don't disagree with other models, but I feel like other models of therapy don't allow you that time, right? It's about like back to back and get the kids in, right? We truly have the time to collaborate with you, to be a part of the team, rather just drop your child off and bring them back. So,
and you listen to science too, right? We can see what the research is telling us. It's telling us how much, the frequency, the intensity, what is the newest type of therapy we should be using. And that is also important too. It's not sometimes you're dictated by scheduling or billing or insurance that's saying like, oh, 80% is good enough. Like your kid doesn't really need to learn how to ride a bike. Yes, they do. It's important for them. It's fulfilling for them. It's meaningful for them. And that's right. That's what's at the heart of it.
I would just add one example that kind of ties together a couple of these things, which is about sort of how customized what they do is. When my son was 14, he decided he wanted more than anything to learn how to drive and have a driver's license. And so Alex said, okay, we got to start now. And he did start now, and he was one of her first driving students, I think, and he has a driver's license now, and it's because of them, it's not because of me, but they sort of they put together a plan that was like a multi-year plan about how to get Owen to get a driver's license because that's what he wanted to do.
Because a lot of the goals too, right? Like I think sometimes people just look at surface level and they don't see exactly everything that goes into everything, right? Bike riding isn't just about pedaling. It's about vision. It's about balance. It's about coordination, right? It's about attention, being able to attend to, people in front of you or other bikes, right? So I feel like we do a good job of really seeing where the holes are and how we can bridge those gaps to meet the goal. And we never say no to a goal usually. We're going to try. We're going to try. We will never say no. Right? We will never say no. If we feel like we cannot accomplish that because we've tried and tried and tried, we will find another way to accomplish it. It's not about saying no, right?
You think out of the box.
We love being outside the box. We don't like being in the box. We don't.
Our executive director has a joke when we ask him like, hey Scott, can we do this? He goes, you can do whatever you want. That's like the running joke at our facility. You can do whatever you want.
It is fun. And it really affects us when parents come to us and say, a doctor told us our child will never walk or talk or ride a bike or do this. And we're like, why? That they saw them when they were like 6 months old. How are they predicting their future already? So it's really nice to be able to kind of deliver on those goals. And it's not us. Like we are the experts and we help them get there, but it's their hard work getting them there. So and it's their determination. So if you can't tell, we really love what we do. But then there is one more program that kind of I wanted to talk about three programs is more of our intensive style programs. So this is actually what started Intensive Therapeutics 20 years ago, was our Camp Helping Hands. And that is specific to children with CP, hemiplegia, diplegia, triplegia. And it's an intensive style program, 4 weeks, 6 hours per day, 5 days per week. And we build that program for each individual that comes, but it is offered in a small group setting as well. And that's offered in the summer. So you can sign up for definitely OT because it's an OT program, but then you can add on the speech component and the PT component, and that's always provided in that small group setting. So that's just another bridge to help. So then we also have another program in the summer that's called Camp Leaps and Bounds, and that's more for our kids. And I know I said we don't usually separate by diagnoses. These are only the two programs, but then I'll explain how it comes together. That's more for our kids who might have a diagnosis of autism, ADHD, social
Sensory
communication, sensory processing, right? And those are the kids that we're still doing the same thing that we would do in the other camp. We pair those kids together in the group. So we might have a group of 2 kids that have more of motor needs and 2 kids that might have more attention, sensory, communication needs. And then we pair them together and we're doing the same activity. And it's our job to figure it out for each child within the group, but they're practicing on that social communication with their peers rather than an individual speech therapist saying, okay, do this, or an OT saying, tie your shoes. They might be working together to tie their shoes. And it's a really nice model. And that one's also offered 4 weeks, 5 days per week for 6 hours. Again, if 6 hours doesn't make sense for the child, then we adapt it and figure out what is the best. But
And it's still individualized too. And we have a lot of support systems in place too. So we have a really strong volunteer program that's helpful to us. So, right, say if there is a group of 5 kids and 3 of them have CP and 2 of them are on the spectrum, we have enough hands to be able to kind of support every kid in a way that is individualized, even though it's within the group setting, warranted that they're ready for the group setting, right? So lots of extra sets of hands and that are really helpful to the program to keep it individualized.
So Camp Helping Hands runs both July and August. I think it starts in June.
Yes, it's the last week of June.
Last week of June this time. But then Camp Leaps and Bounds runs the second session of that. So it's usually like the end of July into August. Yes. And I could pass on. That's the end of July. Yeah, the combined. And
some CP kids and some kids are on spectrum.
and it's a great the participation between the children and then learning from each other and being cheerleaders for each other and supporting each other. It's amazing to watch and see. And a lot of these kids become friends, like true friends, right? And we have kids that talk outside of therapy, and the older guys all have their text chain going or their Snapchats, and it's really nice to see, right, that our kids feel like they fit in somewhere, right? Because sometimes they don't always get that. So
You might have I'm sorry,
Sure.
you might have mentioned it already when I was out of the room, but does insurance cover any of this, or?
So we are trying. We've tried many different ways. It really depends on everyone's insurance. So we're out of network completely, but that should not be the end all be all, because we have people call and say, do you accept insurance? And then they just hang up and we're like, wait, let's talk. So we've had some insurance companies cover services, and it's dependent on everyone's insurance and how you word the language, so we can help coach you. We do not directly bill them, but we also do have school districts that have paid for services. So I'm not
It's ESY.
ESY. So instead of ESY or yeah. So
I'd like to know how you coach them instead of doing that.
that's Scott Matthews has a great, and I'm sure Ann could now co-lead
probably
that
do
group.
it
Definitely want that.
Have you has anyone ever been successful in getting Medicaid to reimburse your services?
I don't know that.
I'm not aware of that happening.
Right. I'm trying to think back. We've had people try. I don't know if they're successful.
Are we thinking, we're speaking only of the intensive, right?
No,
Or
well, we could
the-
talk about everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything.
We've had kids come for their individual therapies covered by schools. If the school doesn't feel like they can meet the right needs, so they and it's not about us getting a contract with the school, like for 25 of their kids. It's what matters to your child and if it makes sense for your child. So that's what Scott really does a good job, is coaching parents on how to approach a school district. And Scott's coming from a perspective that he has also had to battle with a school district for his son. So he understands, the number one thing he says is bring a picture of your child to the IEP meeting, because then you're saying, we're only talking about my child, right? Because they always try to do the blanket statement. He said, always put the picture and
Right
slam
next to
the
the book.
parents' rights down. And even if you didn't read it, tab it like you did and highlight a few lines. So
Mess it up a little bit.
It's a long document.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
The picture would also be helpful to remind everyone you're actually talking about a human. person.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what gets lost a lot in the IEP meeting. So Scott is more than happy. He loves talking to people. He would be happy to talk to anybody or put on a little, IEP type of style talk. He's been very successful in coaching parents on how to navigate that kind of system. So we've had school districts, we've had foundations provide. So just asking certain foundations have been said,
Oh,
sure, we
Do
will.
you know, the organization Mission Kids Success?
No, what's that?
There's an
one?
organization that, is in, it's based in Glen Rock, but it's all over Essex County as well. And it's an organization that will help you pay for therapies out that you can't afford out of pocket. And it's called Mission and then colon Kids Success. And
I'm
you
gonna
really
add
should
that to the
join
list.
forces with
Yeah.
them because there could be a funnel,
Love that.
Right.
Yeah, that
Specifically, that's what they do.
That's awesome.
we've had Julia's Butterfly Foundation. I don't know if anyone knows that one. I don't know how to go about actually gaining those funds, but that's something to look into. Spring Lake Hope Foundation is another one that we just worked with for a child.
United grant.
Oh, United Healthcare Foundation. You do not have to be part of United Healthcare as your insurance,
Wow.
but that one also has provided funding for certain kids. So United Healthcare Foundation. Yeah, these are all places that have helped other families come and get our services as well.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
One, does the therapeutic style and like the collaborative environment you create for each of these group sessions, does it follow any kind of behavioral approaches, or is it strictly like your own training philosophies, or is there, because like I know there's a floor time VIR, there's ABA and behavioral time. I'm just curious, like what is the philosophy of how you work on these skills?
I think we kind of are all trained and familiar with a lot of those, and we kind of jumble it up, and what makes sense for each individual, that's what we're going to kind of do. So
it's kind of dynamic.
Yeah, it's definitely the dynamic, and we pull from our expertise, and it's never just one approach necessarily always works, but if we find the approach that works, then we're
So you're not anti anyone in one type, right?
no.
And the
we
consistency, I think, is important for a lot of the kids
Mhm.
too. So just making sure, like, when we do find something that works, just being all on the same page and making sure there is that
Mhm.
carryover. Yeah.
because a lot of times we'll hear like school's trying this, but they never tell the parents, and then the family's trying to figure something out, and whether they have ABA therapists or other therapists coming trying a different approach, and then it's like the kid's confused because they don't know what to follow, right? So that's why like being able to talk to everyone and all do the same thing, that consistency really does help. And it's there's no then weak link in the equation, right? Because we always say the children are so smart that they always find the weakest link. Even if you don't think you're the weakest link, or dad's the weakest link, or grandparents are the weakest link, they always find the weakest link. So if by being able to have everyone on the same page and talk and understand the same process, then you don't have any weak links, and then it's consistency across the board, and then that's where you really find growth. And like the changes in the brain, right? That repetition really is what changes the brain.
Changes in the brain.
Just
one moment. Like I said, Maura, that's my daughter, has been with you. Oh my gosh, been with intensive now 16 years. Okay. So in December of 2023, she was profiled in People magazine.
Oh.
There she is.
And you will recognize one of our speakers. Oh.
Yeah.
Who was also mentioned, the one with Scott Matthews. So instead of taking up all the time to tell you about this, all I suggest is that you take a moment today and Google glass, like a cup, glass half full girl, and you'll get actually the extended story, which quotes Alex at some length about what it's taken over the years to move Mora from point A to point B. This is a very, very special organization. Not just for what they have done from a physical skills standpoint, but it's really a community that puts a lot of emphasis on social skill development and peer interactions, and for parents, especially those parents who send their children to these programs during the summer, it has been a connection to people who are going through the same thing that you're going through in a very isolated way. Scott has done a tremendous job of educating parents, and parents have connected with one another, because if anyone's going to give you the lowdown on how to move your child ahead, how to approach your school district, how to try and tap into your insurance company, it's often other parents. But where are you going to find them?
Here.
Well,
Right.
That's
right here.
I just have to say that, Alma.
Also, but you can't have just one organization doing that.
Right, exactly. So, I'm delighted to be here and introduce, be part of the introduction to those of you who don't know about intensive therapeutics, because it's an amazing place, and it draws families during the summer who come all the way from Australia, from Spain, from England, Canada, different parts of the united States where they can't find this.
How soon can we apply for the camp?
Registration's open. It is,
Okay.
but what we always like to say is we can sit down and talk more in detail. We're not trying to do it today in detail, but we would love to get to know your story, your child, and understand.
Show you a tour and try
Yeah. So our doors are open whenever you want to come by. If there's anything that Alma, you too, like if you feel like there's any support that we can provide and come, or you guys come to us, and we love the community approach, and we love the collaboration, and feel like we all have the same mission and helping families. So
I had another question that's a little more specific, and I don't know if this affects other families, but well, for sure in our group it does. My son is like a pretty extreme eloper. He doesn't really go to anywhere specific. He's not looking for, to get to a mountaintop or to a body of water. He's just running from us and loving the thrill of our panic every time we're in a public unsafe area, or if we're just going from point A to point B in a parking lot. And we've been doing all these different interventions over the years with different therapists, a lot, recently more ABA, training the parents, all the stuff. And we feel like no matter what we've done, there hasn't really been a tangible progress in that regard. And we're almost wondering, like, is it something in his, like, in the brain body connection that's making it hard for him to, like, control the impulse to do something like that's dangerous or whatever, because he's not processing in the moment. But we can, with other things, like he used to grab fire alarms walking through a hallway, and that was like a big problem everywhere in places. They were able to kind of narrate leading up to it, calm his anxiety when he was going to see one, and just say, we're not going to do that. And over time that improved. But with elopement, we've seen a very different kind of scenario because we've been working on it for so many years. I'm wondering, when you see like a behavior like that isn't necessarily a threat to everyone else, but is a threat to the person's own safety, is that the kind of thing that you could work on in an intensive? Or like, do you have examples of like what has worked for some of your population in that, for that?
I would question, is it only really outside in like public, or is it kind of in
like in a hallway inside?
In a hallway inside. Okay. So we've definitely had kids and teens who elope, and it depends, like, really, I feel like observing the elopement is what would give us the answers, right? So we had one child who used to enter any room and literally just find the corner so that they could feel where their body was in space, and he would just run, right? Like, and it might be a huge building, and he would just take off and run to the corner, or run down the hall and go into a random room,
touch the wall sometimes too.
Touch the wall, because that was the sensory component that was sending him almost in a flight or fright mode to find somewhere where made him feel where he was in space. So it really depends on like what your son is getting, because he's doing it for a certain reason, right? So I don't know if it was necessarily maybe the reaction that he got one time, and then kind of, right, sometimes that is where it's more of like that behavioral where he just wants to run. Sometimes it's a sensory component. So it really depends on each child. And then I think, yes, it's something that can be worked on. Would it be 100% kind of solved? I can't give you that answer, right? Because each person is different. So it really depends on why, like the why of what's going on, really getting to the root of why he's doing it. So it really, I don't know if I answered, but
I'm just like in my head, I'm thinking of all the behaviors that have come up over the years, and a lot of my son's behaviors are attention seeking as opposed to like having a source. Like this happens and that happens. It's never like that. You know, they're always perplexed in the IEP meetings. Like, we can't get to the bottom of this. We've done a BIP, and the only thing we can see is that, you know, it's a reinforcing thing, because he sees the reaction everyone gives when he's going to do something super unsafe. Everybody walks
So,
down
yeah,
the room, we can't do that. And then he's like, yes, I got the reaction.
Yeah.
And then he does it again and again.
because
And
so
I'm
that's
just
what he's
wondering,
kind of
like, have you
seeking
had
more.
Success with something like where it's attention seeking as opposed to like something where there's a definite destination they're trying to reach their
Yeah, so
threshold.
that definitely makes sense. I'm trying to think of any
I feel like we've
specifics.
probably worked with that more so like on an individual basis, just
Okay.
because in the group, most of the time we need everybody like staying within the group. But I think that's probably something we could work on an individual basis and then like moving towards a group. Is it something that he does like throughout the day or like in home or in the classroom, or it's more so when he's like transitioning from spaces?
So like it's drastically reduced in the school and ABA setting because the centers are like the doors are not accessible to them to exit the building. Yes, he might still flee if he's super dysregulated to another classroom and interrupt someone's preschool.
Yeah,
but in general, he's a lot more contained. Whereas with us, he's like pulling at our hand everywhere we go, trying to dash off. And so it's very much like when the situation's less controlled, the environment's less controlled, that's when he's going to do it more.
You got it. Yeah, and it's definitely right, like Brielle's saying, the individual and then being able to work into a group setting in a less controlled setting. So we do a lot of community outings because where our building is, we're kind of in town. So we might decide, oh, let's walk to the park. Let's walk to Dunkin' Donuts, right? If the kids are working on money management. So then in that situation, we can really work on those skills of, right, like a less controlled environment and being able to practice it. And then, right, because he might not be getting the practice in school being less controlled. The school is very, very much ABA. But when he gets home, then he
it all sounds
right, supposed to be, but that's what it turns out.
No, but your mom, and I believe me, I have 3 boys, so I understand your mom, and you're not supposed to be the therapist. You're supposed to be mom. So it's always the
music to my ears. Every therapist I've ever been in, like, we have to train you to be a therapist in perpetuity until you're 90. You're not allowed to die.
Yeah, no, you're not supposed to be the therapist. You're supposed to have that connection with your child. Are we going to tell you some things that you could maybe change at home or do to help? But you're not supposed to be doing the therapy. We want to get bridge that gap where they can be able to be themselves at home with you instead of you just constantly doing therapy with them.
Amazing.
How long is the intensive, individual setting is like, how long are those sessions and how long are the group ones? Are they just like 45 minutes? Are they
depends on your child.
Yeah, it depends on the child. So for the younger kids that aren't in school yet, so like the 2-3-year-olds, usually we have a 2-hour group. If it's after school time, we usually try to do an hour and a half. Sometimes it's only an hour, depending on the group. But for the intensive summer program, that's anywhere between 3 and 6 hours per day. But also we do have, right, like if you're
it's not such a short
oh yeah, no,
like
it's
therapy's often 30-40 minutes. It's like,
what do you get done with that?
Right? You stay there. An hour and a half is practical.
Yeah. No, it's definitely and we have that house next door, like I was saying, but upstairs are actually office spaces. So if parents have to come and like work or hang out and they don't want to leave, there's Wi-Fi, there's a bathroom. You did it? I told you that.
I was in my car doing my work. Oh no. Do you have outdoor space on site?
Yeah, we have a whole playground. Our back parking lot has a bike track. We have a little garden beds on the side of the house.
So We
have-
actually started out in Fanwood in a really tiny space. And in 2016, a foundation saw what we were doing and renovated a 15,000 square foot building for us. So it has the house. It has the house. It has a playground. We have a bike riding track. We have a garden. We have the 2 large kitchens. We have individual therapy rooms. We have our sensory gym. We have our big gym. It's almost the size of a half basketball court.
I feel like I
So-
know about that. I didn't know about it.
We don't really market anywhere.
We're all like word of mouth.
We're word of mouth.
I always joke too, like we're not marketers and we're not videographers, but like we're trying now, I guess. We're good at the therapy. But
we do have an Instagram.
You're on Instagram.
We
Yeah.
do have an Instagram.
But yeah, I think that the space is so unassuming too. When you look at it on Google Maps, it's like shows this little tiny building front, and then you walk in and there's just so much space, and it really affords us the opportunity to be able to, really do what you guys need us to do.
Feel institutional, it's there's a lot of joy there, but the space, I'm very into this kind of thing, but the space is really beautiful. It's a place you'd want to go.
Yeah, right. I toured a Saturday day program recently that would be funded through performance care, and that's exactly what I felt. It was beyond. It was worse than what I was imagining institution would feel like. It was really just like an office room with some chairs and nothing designed for kids to, move their bodies, get excited, see color, just the type of environment
The setting matters.
you want. Yeah.
We have stained glass windows. We have all the colors.
True.
Yeah. That's why we always say, come visit us. We'll take you on a tour. It could be you by yourself. You could bring your child. We love meeting children. But really seeing the space, I think, makes a big difference.
Do children typically go more than once a week when they're doing an after school type of program? If they're
We do have some kids that come multiple times a week. It really depends
It
on.
can be often once a week.
It could be once a week. Yeah, I think a lot of our kids are once a week.
How do we establish the goals? Is there an intake process that we talk to you about what we want to see? Because I feel like I have a list, right?
Yes.
But I also want to make sure that we're working on the things that are most important. That you guys feel collaboratively could be the most impactful. Because I feel like that for me is a very overwhelming part of helping my son. What is the most important thing that we should be working on
Right now?
time, right?
Yes.
And then working collaboratively, consistently, and letting that kind of continue to grow.
Yeah, we always do an interview with every parent upon starting programming with us. We do it at the beginning of every intensive. We're always constantly communicating. We have open lines of communication, and you guys know too that every week we're checking in, we're coming outside and talking to you guys, talking to the parent and saying, how are they doing at this home? What have you seen? If you have the time this week, see how your child is doing this and report back, and we can kind of make tweaks from there, because we don't always know the answer. Sometimes there is a lot of trial and error, and sometimes figuring out what your child needs. There's 50 different ways to do something, and it's figuring out how your child is going to respond.
Yeah.
So
it is helpful to see the IEP goals and to see what goals we've worked on in the past, but it's not, we're not only going to carry over those school-based goals. So we're more just based functionally on what's more important to you.
Okay, that's good.
We were sending Laura away to sleepaway camp at one point, so she needed to be able to independently shower and take care of.
Roll up her sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Wow. And recently we had we practiced a speech for someone's bat mitzvah, and we practiced it for almost about a year.
A year, yes.
And we practiced in the big gym space, using a microphone, and all of her vision needs. We kind of made sure that we printed it out in a way that was easy for her to see, and then we were able to go to her bat mitzvah.
Oh yeah, that was great.
So it was amazing. Yeah, just so it's just an idea of a functional goal that Brielle and I just.
No, I've never cried so much in my life being there.
Worked on together.
Amazing.
I actually went to a bat mitzvah for a child who had that, and his speech therapist was there, and it was kind of he worked with her, and it was amazing to see that journey and see how far he came for his bat mitzvah. And I'm thinking right now, what I'm thinking about is my son's I don't know what to call it, but he's obsessed with water,
Mhm.
and he'll come home and it doesn't matter if he's here, he's gonna find your sink. And he'll just eat it in that water, right?
Together.
And so I'm wanting to shape it.
Yeah.
Like able to shape it into you're washing a dish.
Yep, yeah.
Instead of just sitting there.
Great,
Just-
yeah.
Yeah.
It's making it functional. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you can wash a dish, you can put it away. We can keep doing that. Like,
Right.
but just don't stand there and just, I don't know.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
All right, well, it's 11
Okay.
o'clock, and I have to run a huge party for 200 people. So
Oh
I
my
have to
goodness.
go.
I do want to say one thing quick for our families who have young adults. We do have we work with DDD, so we are
Oh,
DDD
I was thinking
providers. So that
Sunday.
I think is really
So after
important when it comes to
21.
cost
All
because
right,
I have
we-
actually
we
been
do-
working
Great.
with Celebrate the Children. They have a wonderful young adult program, and I think you definitely offer something that would be.
We have
We have,
people,
yes.
yes. We have people who have come to us, so we,
Okay.
yeah.
Plug into them, maybe even to do presentations before kids turn 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
That's
know
good,
Those
yeah.
parents are like panicked, they don't know what they're about to do, and this could be a good transition before going to like full blown day programs. If
Yeah.
that's where some of
Yes.
the kids end up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Thank
you so
you
much.
so much.
Thank you, Alma.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
I
you,
also
everybody,
have,
for being online. And I'm gonna
Thank
stop the recording, if I can remember how to do that. Right here, recording, where is it? Okay.
Dolly's anxious, I'm like.
Okay, how do I turn this off? AI companion.
Very simple.
Okay.
But I was.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, awesome.
Well, let's pick up.